Are we back?
We're back, baby.
We're back. All right.
Bathroom break.
Thanks for
quick.
the bathroom break,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah, needed it.
Shout out to Kirkland with the most amazing paper products.
We're here to talk leads. Let's talk leads this segment.
Talking white labeling.
White labeling is not a lead. Yeah. It could be.
It could be. We should delve into that. But we're
deep.
But we should transition to leads. We did the intro, who I am, what we do, who Josh is, what Don't Buy Real Estate does, which is the most like ironic handle ever.
Follow it. Don't forget to follow it.
Oh,
you have a social.
So now it's self-promoting.
Do you have social media? Wow, for a marketing guy, no social media.
Yeah, the truth is, I have Instagram, but it's private. It's for my family. It's like pictures of my kids and like, the classic stuff that we thought we would never post.
Yeah.
Right, because you see your parents post on Facebook, you're like, I'll never be that guy. Yeah. It's like,
I'm not on Facebook. That's crazy. I should be.
There's a button to click where it's like, do you want to post this to both Instagram and Facebook? I don't
do Facebook.
Interesting.
I should.
They love it, and I'm not going to do a shout out, but Meta loves when you post to both platforms.
I guess it's not Facebook anymore. It's Meta.
Well, it's Facebook, but like the holding company's Meta, right? And they love it when you post to both because that's not one platform that they can draw in advertisers, right? That's two.
Yeah. 3 now with Threads or whatever it's called.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's wild, right? How they monetize. And you're thinking to yourself like, all right, I've got like a set of followers on Instagram and I have maybe a different set of followers, maybe older, right? Grandparents, aunts, uncles, that type of thing that are still kind of actively posting and watching Facebook. But like the hashtags and then the content that their AI can pick up off of your pictures and videos.
Yeah.
I mean, they're serving up content. You're like, oh, I just went to Lake Tahoe with my kids and da-da-da-da-da. Like all of a sudden there's like advertisements from Columbia and North Face and, Hobby, right? Like, stuff that, sort of that is in line with your vacation. You're like, oh, shoot, dude.
Makes sense, yeah.
We start to realize, right? You are the product.
Yep.
Right? It's not, Facebook is not a product. You're their product.
Yeah.
I will say this, when you do post to Facebook, it's an added layer of credibility and authenticity as the business owner.
Yeah.
Because when someone Googles, they first go to your website, then they match your personality or try to get your personality from Facebook. A lot of the older generation won't go through Instagram, like what Josh is doing on Instagram.
So point,
it's just that, two-factor verification. So
I don't want to ruin his point, but who was that guy?
No.
That was that
was a lot of left field.
Literally. Yeah. He's the camera guy, Thomas.
Yeah.
Video, audio. Are you just a camera? Like, what should we name you?
He's an editor.
He's everything. Broadcast producer. Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. That's like literally his job.
But what's cool about social media is that I get all my leads through social media and I'm not paying for it.
Yeah.
It's literally free. I post 3 times a week on Instagram.
You should post more.
I should post more, but it's time consuming. I mean, I'm a one-man show. YouTube.
What about what about Roderick?
Roderick is, but I'm the show, right? Rolo's behind the scenes most of the time. He's posting, he's doing that. But Instagram wants engagement. They want you to like, they want you to follow, they want you to forward, they want you to do a lot of stuff, and they'll give you credit for that, from my experience of social media. But what I've noticed is that I get all my deals from social media.
And these are DMs.
But then I'll see people out in the streets, like showing a home or another real estate professional or something, or a client or an old high school buddy.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, I saw your Instagram. And now it's just top of mind. So I've tried the lead funnels of like the websites, the little mouse traps that you stick people in through the funnels. And I've tried landing pages, and I've tried buying leads from Zillow and Realtor.com and other sources like that. Lower My Bills. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Those work. I mean, they work, but it starts to add up. And if you're not in front of your phone or in front of your computer, you're not converting those leads at a high clip. Yeah. So you're just flushing money down the toilet. So I'm all in on social.
Yeah.
I hate it, but I love it because it's a lead funnel. And it helps my business grow. It helps my guys get leads that they would have never gotten.
Yeah.
And keeps people top of mind.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I think it's interesting because as these markets shift, right, you're a small boat in the water.
Tiny.
Then you've got these large boats in the water. So it's like it's this age-old story between like a cruise liner and a speedboat. The cruise liner can't pivot as fast, but it also isn't subject to the the harsh wind conditions and like the ever changing waves, right? That the winds create. However, you're like the speedboat, and the speedboat pivots quickly. And I think in a good economy with obviously low inflation, right? And again, I'm guessing, but right, my background is in lead funnels. You can rely on any lead source. You were talking like you used to buy leads from like Lower My Bills, Zillow, Redfin. Was it Redfin?
Realtor.com.
Realtor.com.
Yeah.
In a good environment, right, those leads are gold. In today's environment, what do those leads look like? And has the price changed?
The price has changed and they're worthless.
Okay.
I mean,
why are they worthless?
they're not high converting. They're selling them to multiple people.
Well, for people who don't understand, what does high converting mean?
So in our industry, we want at least a 5 to 8% conversion rate. So out of 100, you get your 8%. You're sitting pretty, right? You're making your money back. Your investment's good. But for like concrete numbers, we spend about $5,000 on Zillow alone, and that comes out to about $150 to $200 a lead.
Okay. And are they selling that lead multiple times?
They are selling it multiple times, which is an amazing business model, to say the least. But
you have to have someone
right away. If you're not calling within 15 seconds, the lead is worthless.
And is it calling or texting?
Calling, texting, email. It does. Our company tries to do all three immediately once a lead comes in.
So it's not only buying leads, but then you also have to invest in automation.
Yep.
Right? Email, SMS, that type of thing, calling.
Yep. Humans.
Humans, right? And that's the other part, right? That huge, like the human capital, right? That's intensive.
Yeah.
Has that changed, like from yesteryear where it's low rate, like low inflation environment where anyone, right, can do amazing things with a lead at $150 each.
Yep.
What does that $150 per lead get you today?
It gets me a lot of no dial tones, no responses. But when it's social,
that's so terrible.
It's completely organic. I'm not reaching out to anyone. They're reaching out to me.
Why is that though?
If the
same lead exists,
crazy,
right? If the same lead exists, why is that lead not in those three funnels?
It's the relationship. They meaning the person who DMs me, has a relationship with me that they cultivated in their mind or through their feed. Okay. They see me every single day. Yeah. I'm posting on story 10 to 15 times a day. Oh. I'm posting a funny video.
Okay, so you're not posting 3 times a week.
On the actual feed, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
On stories, that's different, right? You're telling a story, you're trying to get people to engage. But
I think people want to understand the difference. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Right?
But people feel like they have a relationship with you because they see you so often on there.
That's your brand.
Yeah. That's the brand. But a lead that comes in through any of these funnels, there's no relationship. You could break up at any point in time, right?
It's funny because we're talking about real estate leads, but just leads in general. There's a publicly traded company called LendingTree. You're obviously familiar with it.
Yeah.
And LendingTree tries to be the end all be all for all sort of finance verticals, right? So it could be lending, it could be insurance, it could be even business loans, right? Yeah. So they try to be the end all be all. If you look at their stock over the last 12 months, given how interest rates have affected the economy, I mean, they're a shadow, or I forget what the phrase is, so you have to correct me here. But like they've lost like 90% of their market cap.
Jeez.
Yeah, and so it's weird, right? We're talking about Realtor.com. We're talking about Zillow.
I wonder if Zillow is because Zillow's like a LendingTree. They're a real estate lead.
They're a lead aggregator
company. Right?
Yeah, they're a lead aggregator.
I wonder if their market share dropped too.
Yeah,
with the decline.
It'd be interesting to figure out if they have any other leads that they sell or that they market. And that's the thing. You have to. If I could give any advice to someone who's either going to start lead funnels or is going to buy leads, for their own marketing needs, you need to diversify. Right? Like you were talking about like lead funnels like Zillow and so on and so forth. Okay. But what do you do when that dries up?
Yeah.
Right. And so the same thing can be said about marketers today. It's like, if you're going to market yourself on Meta, right, Instagram and Facebook, you better be also on Google doing PPC, doing display, doing PMax, doing YouTube, doing shorts, 9:16 versus 1080. You think it's duplicative content. It's not, right? It's a different person who watches long form content, right?
Yeah.
Where there's going to be, a B-roll ad, right, that makes sense to that viewer within that long form content, versus who's, thumbing through stories, sitting in their bed at night, unhappy with the piece of real estate that they own, or sitting there unhappily in their apartment saying, this is a dream, right? I want a piece of real estate. And then they're coming across your video. But the idea is that it's not duplicative content, and you have to have a stool with multiple legs, because if your PPC ads aren't working, you got to be able to pivot to something that is working.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the really interesting part about your brand, Don't Buy Real Estate, right? It's that you make funny videos about the irony of being a flipper, and people feel the authenticity.
Yeah.
And that is who you are, right? Like, it's tough, right? We were talking earlier about that post that you did with the permits.
Oh yeah.
It's impossible,
Yeah.
right? There's so many hurdles to doing well, not only in this economy, but being a flipper.
Yeah.
So do you want to be a flipper, or do you just want to buy real estate from Josh?
Yeah.
Right. And I think, you should talk about that a little bit. Like, what's the current state of the real estate economy for agents who weren't that good?
Yeah.
What do they do now?
Yeah. That's a scary part. But back to your point, before I answer that,
Yeah.
you say, hey, get different legs to your stool.
Right.
The hard part is getting those legs. I mean, I've studied the Alex Hermosis, the Russell Brunson, the hey, we have this quick guide, the PPC or whatever funnels, and none of that sticks. Like, that's where I wish I had a guy like you, for example, who's sitting there dedicated to building that out, but that's impossible to find.
Yeah. Shout out to Lev also, by the way.
Lev still here?
He's a lead guru.
There we go.
Yeah. He builds funnels.
Lev, you want to work for me?
I got you.
There we go.
Yeah. What, dude, you're poaching him right in front of me, dude. First of all, it's a blood relative.
That was okay. That was kind of awkward for me.
Shout out to 23andMe, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He said I got you right in front of you, so that's not my fault.
It was a bit awkward.
Yeah, it was, but he got me.
He's a young man. It's a young man's game,
Yep.
right? And it's funny because most of these companies that will help you build your funnels, the genius is that, like, you don't need someone necessarily in-house. You just need someone who's dedicated, understands your business. And if they're willing to be a contractor, great. Bring them in, explain them what they do, or explain what you do. Have enough capital and patience to get through the honeymoon phase, where it's like, oh, this is great, right? Have enough capital to kind of stay the course, and trust the process.
Yeah.
And there's going to be bumps in the road.
I'm going to cut you off because I've tried that.
Yeah.
You get poor quality.
This is with an agency.
With an agency, multiple agencies, and it's the same kind of sales pitch, right?
Wow.
It just seems
What
like
is the pitch?
It's, hey, you got to start off with this minimum investment. We recommend this amount monthly to get any sort of traction with the leads, and we want you to wait 3 to 6 months to see any traction. And you're like, sure, I agree. Let's do it. 6 months comes around. Nothing, right? Oh, it's because we didn't spend enough, or we didn't do this enough, and this and this and this. And you're like, all right, well, how much do we need to spend?
Right.
You invest, year goes by, still nothing. You're in the hole. Right.
And there are companies that specifically do it for the real estate vertical.
Exactly. And they stink at it. Maybe it's just the wrong companies, or maybe I'm doing
who's
something
doing
wrong.
it well? Because you see these guys.
It sounds like a lot of people are doing it well, but they have people in-house. They're not working with third-party companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you have to know the product.
Yep.
And I think maybe that's the biggest thing, right? The relationship, just like anything else in life, it can't be transactional.
Yep.
This has to be two people coming together with a shared interest, husband and wife, right?
Yeah. Same goals, same mindset.
Goals. Yeah. And it has to be culturally a fit.
Equity.
Yeah.
In the whole thing.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because you do see, like, as I'm scrolling through Instagram at night, I do see like a bunch of these companies hawking their lead funnels, and it's persuasive. It's persuasive. And I was just talking to Lev about this a couple of days ago, and I was like, our retargeting, right? And for those who don't know what that is, it's like, we'll show you an ad and maybe you click it, or maybe you sit on that ad for a little bit, but Instagram's keeping track of your scroll speed. So if you slow it down, that's an indicator, right, that you're interested, whether or not you click it. And so they're going to, if you don't click, maybe they'll show you that same ad. At the same time, they'll show you competitor ads, right? And so the idea then is, how good is your retargeting game?
Yeah.
Right. And so for paid, right, we're talking about organic specifically with you, but for paid, you better have a sick retargeting game, right? Because if you show them the same post that they saw and you show it to them over and over and over again, because each of these platforms have a retargeting sort of, they have a retargeting campaign where they'll show whatever ad you have until the user grows tired, and they call it fatigue.
Yeah.
And so they'll actually report back to you. They'll say like, hey, this ad, right, has a ton of fatigue, right? And you'll just see that the impression share goes down, and then the click cost, the cost per click, goes way up. So you have to have a really sick, a really strong retargeting campaign strategy. But going back to these lead funnels, these guys have got it. It's super persuasive. You're like, you know, we have taught like these real estate professionals and business coaches and how to scale their business. And you hear about Ryan Pineda and all these guys who are doing it. They're like a gold standard, right? And then you have like the off brands of these guys that are teaching this philosophy. You know, I've been on calls with them before just to kind of understand kind of what they do. It doesn't sound bulletproof.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you said. You're going to spend a lot of money, and what you're going to get in return is going to fall way short of your expectations. And you're going to grow frustrated. And I think in this recessionary environment, you got to be super careful with your dollars. And that's maybe where, for your industry, right, specifically real estate, having an organic presence is key.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then to your point, those guys on the Instagram agents who are just posting random stuff.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about that. That's bad.
Well, they don't know, so we should at least.
But do they not know? Like, that's the scary. Like, I know when I post a bad video.
You'll see a real estate agent, and they'll be like, they're talking at the camera.
Yeah.
Which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like one of those videos, like
in a stranger's house.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I don't know what they're selling, because it's certainly not real estate.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what they're selling. Very ineffective, whether it's paid or organic.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to be sort of too judgmental. Maybe they're just kind of starting their journey. But I think if they have friends and family and colleagues who are seeing that video, right, like they should give them honest feedback. Like it should be authentic.
Yeah.
They should be themselves. If you're in the real estate game, right, you got to be amicable. You have to be likable. You have to be authentic.
Yeah.
You have to be a good listener.
But there has to be some sort of value, even with the paid ad side, right?
Yeah.
The value has to be there, or you just don't post it, in my opinion.
I think I've seen real estate sponsored posts that seem super ineffective.
Oh, yeah.
I'll look at the view count. And you're like, how is that like going to make any sort of dent? If you have an Instagram post that has less than 10 to 20,000 views, it's ineffective.
Yep.
Just give up.
Yeah.
Right. Let that be the leading indicator that like whatever you're doing, right, you need to step back, right, and like look at it with a different lens.
Yep.
And be judgmental about what your strategy is, and figure out there's got to be some niche, right? I think with your niche, right, paid ads for real estate, in my opinion, just don't work, right? It's just
even for trying to get like a buyer or seller.
I think that's different.
Yeah.
I think that's different. I think if you're showing a property, like there's a guy in Rancho Santa Fe, I think it's Jason Berry. He takes a drone, and you know it's him in front of a, you know, it's that in combination, in concert with like him showing this amazing, right, $10 to $20 million property. The property is kind of selling itself, or how they've staged it, right? But that piece of real estate kind of sells itself. And if it's hyper targeted, right? If you're a real estate agent and you've got some sponsored videos about a specific property, maybe that you're trying to sell, whether it's a flip or otherwise, right? You can get super, you know, hyper targeted with Instagram. And then maybe views don't necessarily matter. Like your targeting matters.
Yeah.
So maybe you get like that high quality lead because you're able to zero in on a certain locale.
Yeah.
Or you know, whatever, right? So like one of these categories that you can sort of filter by, like with the with Meta's platform. But I think that's a different story.
Yeah.
I think if you're selling yourself as an agent and you're doing that with a sponsored post, not recommended.
Yeah.
Because it comes off as weird and creepy and inauthentic. And I think, well, you would know best, right? Organic seems to be working for you. You seem to be crushing it there.
Yeah, organic is the way to go, but you have to do it on like a personal level. Yeah. My method was just humor, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be humor. It could be educational, where you're teaching everyone the steps of buying a home or a business loan or air conditioning.
I don't know if I'd watch that.
I think you would if you were in that industry.
Well, hold on. If I'm looking for a piece of real estate, I want a guy explaining air conditioning to me?
No, I'm talking about different
different niches.
Yeah. If I'm an AC guy, I'm not going to post a AC install. I'm going to show you the ins and outs of the AC.
Yeah. The educational.
The educational standpoint of it. Yeah. But you're watching humor. If you're looking for a house, you're watching humor. You're watching tips. You're watching different beautiful homes. Yeah. You're watching a hot chick who's an agent. You're not watching some guy who's just standing in front of a house or he's got a picture. I hate this when they have a picture of a family holding the sold sign in front of a house.
Looks like a cheesy stock photography.
It looks like they sold the kid. Like it's just a bad look. Like
shout out to iStock, right? Hit us up, dude.
No more sponsors.
Slide into my DMs.
Control this guy. How do I mute you?
Well, it's funny because now AI, specifically with DALL-E as an example, is replacing that whole like Getty Images. Right? So you don't have to have that. But yeah, you're right. Like when you see those ads where it's like, a family holding the sold sign.
It looks like he just sold the family. Like if I'm just swiping by, I go, did you just sell the family? Like, because we're sold. Like I'm like, you can't do that, man.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
it's not a good look. Maybe have a testimonial from the family in that. Make it a video. Make it really good edits. Hey, how did we meet? Where did you start? How much did this like down payment cost you? All this stuff. How did I help? Same amount of time it took you to create this horrible post.
At the same time, when I see companies, specifically, not necessarily agents, but when I see companies post a testimonial where it's like just text,
they're horrible,
dude.
Yeah.
It's
bad.
You are not going to leverage that post to do anything.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just ineffective.
Yeah.
People want to watch other people. And this kind of goes back to, we haven't necessarily talked about, we've talked about multiple lead funnels, but we haven't talked about landing pages. Maybe we'll get to that in a future podcast. But we have tested landing pages like galore, right? And so landing pages, for all who don't understand, you have an ad, you click it, it goes to a web page. That's kind of your funnel. Yep. That's your chance to like, okay, you got them, right? Now educate them a little bit, right? Put some data on the page that appeals to them so that you can sort of understand or be empathetic to that customer's journey. And what it starts with, right, is, what that landing page starts with is a great hero image. And 9 times out of 10, if your hero image doesn't have a human that's looking back at you, it's an ineffective page. Yeah. For some reason, when we go to landing pages, you want to see a hero image at the top with another person staring back at you, right? And so obviously you need to be receptive of desktop versus mobile, because if you have a big hero image on mobile, it's going to slow down the load on the page. Yeah. Even if you're using like a company to kind of host that image independently of that website, it's just, that's why you never see videos and hero images, right? Because it's just too slow on mobile. And we'll delve into that maybe on a future podcast, but it's like you need a hook, right? And so for those of you that are trying to come up with lead funnels, you can't post, like you said, like a family with a sign that says sold. You can't put a review like a customer testimonial on a page and hope that's going to bring you some organic traffic. Yeah. Your tag game, no matter how good it is, right? Your hashtag game, no matter how good it is, that's not going to appeal to the algorithms to the extent as your posts and stories do. Yeah. And the algorithms are, the AI that drives these algorithms, they have so many data points that they're looking at. You're not going to crack it with like, this is a great testimonial. Like, you know what I mean? Like text on a page. Yeah. Like you said, if you're selling a house, have the person who bought the home explain probably the pitfalls, the negs, how terrible an experience it was until they got to you.
Yep.
Or the trials and tribulations of, I don't know, like what's involved with selling a home. You have to like, you know, you have to have a home inspector.
Yep.
Right. And he's looking at the roof and he's looking at what else? What could go wrong with selling a home?
Roof, plumbing, heating and air. You're talking the big ticket items.
Right.
There's always going to be scuffs and stuff, but those are the big ticket items.
And those are what matter, right? Because if you're buying an older home as opposed to new, that's where you're hoping that the inspector does a good job of like protecting you.
Yeah.
These are the items that you want to be careful of. This home's roof is 25 years old.
Yeah.
Right. What does a roof last? 30 years.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a great idea, right? For like a guy who's a real estate agent or a gal who's a real estate agent going, are you buying a home? Right? These are the 4 biggest things, right? If the home that you're looking at is 20 years old, these are like the 4 things that you want to really kick the tires on with your home inspector, or else you're going to sell a home to someone, right? And then you're going to be sued.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you don't get as serious as that, but like these are the 4 points that you want to look at.
Yep.
And you want to, you know, the paint color and the appliances, as appealing as that may be, if you're buying an older home, right? You want to make these good decisions based off of these items.
And I don't think anyone's doing that in real estate or in any industry right now.
Yeah.
But that, going back to what you said you called it what, a hero
image.
A hero image. Would define what that is for all the ignorant people out there like me.
It was like you click on a lead, or sorry, you click on an ad,
Yep.
let's say a Google PPC ad.
Okay.
Or in Instagram, in your feed, you click on a video and it says promoted right at the bottom. You click on it or sponsored. It takes you to a web page, right? At the top of that web page is usually a hero image. It's somebody looking at you. And so
Now I'm going to look for it.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Once you learn a word, you start to see that word pop up all over. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? I remember, dumb story, but I remember like taking Chinese, Mandarin. I know, it's kind of weird. I was bored. I wasn't married. And I took it at a community college when I was first starting Cardiff.
Just for fun?
Just for fun. I lived in Irvine.
It's almost like a prerequisite. Like take a course of Chinese.
Absolutely. And so I took it, and I remember like taking a few semesters of it and, you know, learning how to speak conversational Mandarin and being able to, I think maybe I got through like a couple thousand characters, which is like probably elementary level Chinese. And I remember like going to Chinatown and like being able to read the signs.
That's crazy.
So like before, as a kid, not knowing Chinese, it's like just like sticks, it's lines and stuff like that. And you're like, I don't know what that means. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, it's true. It's like once you're aware of something within, you know, lead funnels, social media, once you've like pulled back the curtain and you start to understand how bid cap strategy or, or any other aspect, right, of hacking a lead funnel, once you understand it, then it's not so ominous, right? And then you feel like you have some mastery. Obviously, we talked about this earlier in the podcast where it's like people can move the goalposts. And with these algorithms, it's like a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
People's opinions and actions change with respect to these platforms. And they have to be responsive enough, the AI, to keep track of all those things, all those data points. And so just when for people who are creating lead funnels, this isn't the greatest advice, but it's something to be cautionary about, which is the goalpost will get moved. You'll think you'll understand like Google PPC, for example, and then they'll change something.
Yep.
And, you know, you'll start off with a strategy, and then they'll unveil something like T-ROAS, for example, for PPC. And you're like, well, the way that I was looking at it was this way. And then you'll start to realize that like there's the ever-changing winds of these platforms. They seem to change. And so you could fall into this trap. You get prideful that you understand a lead funnel. And then all of a sudden next month you're like, but I thought I understood it. Yeah. And so it's dangerous. And I think that, I think, you know, we can end things here and kind of wrap it up, but I think there's a dichotomy that exists, obviously, with lead funnels. And that's, you have a paid side, right? And you have an organic side of things. And an organic side of things, like, you need to build there. And that can be, for like real estate or for whatever industry you're in, can be organic video. If you're doing images, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't, like we talked about leg of a stool, right? You have to have multiple funnels in order to have stability. You can't buy leads from businessloans.com, right? And just rely on that because they're just going to sell the lead 10 times over. Yep. You can't buy leads from LendingTree because it's the same as buying from Zillow. Yep. They're going to sell that lead 10 times over. So you have to have some sort of grounding. And I feel like the grounding is the organic. And that's where you're crushing it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on, man.